Hello again, my AP Econers. So we're back again, this time for Macro Unit 4 review. Now, that being said, these concepts are not going to show up on this year's online at-home exam, but for posterity's sake, in case you ever need this or somebody else finds it useful, I'm just going to do it just to complete the course and say I did a video covering every single concept and lesson for macro. So that's what this is for. Again, it's not going to be very useful to you guys, but for maybe upcoming classes, they can utilize this or somebody else. So mostly in this one, we're talking about international trade accounts. That's pretty easy stuff, current and capital account. And then most of the rest of it is currency exchange. That can get a little bit tricky. So let's start with the easy stuff, though, our international trade accounts. Whenever a transaction takes place between two nations, it goes in one of two accounts. The current account measures the exchange of goods and services between nations. So I always think if something was made in one country and then sent to another country or sold to another country, that would go in the current account. The capital account, sometimes also called the financial account, okay, so make sure you make note of that. I learned it as capital account, so I always call it capital account. Sometimes you'll see financial account. That measures the exchange of investments between nations. Nations invest in one another. Usually this takes the form of buying stocks and bonds from other countries. We do that. Americans buy stocks and foreign stocks or bonds. Other countries sometimes buy our stocks and bonds. Okay. It could also be, though, when one country purchases real estate from another country or builds a factory in another country, that would also go under the capital account. Okay, so just to kind of differentiate between those two, that's pretty simple. And then, of course, our golden rule, kind of like our T statements, balance sheets, and when we talk about banks, kind of a similar thing. The two accounts, when you put them together, they always have to balance. So here's how that works. When money comes into an account, it gets credited as a positive. So if we sell a good or a service, money comes in and that gets credited as a positive in our current account. If we sell another country an investment, stock or a bond or something like that, money comes into our capital account and that goes down as a positive. Of course, when money goes out of the accounts, when we buy from other nations, either goods or services or investments, that goes down as a negative. And the two accounts together have to balance. So bottom line, if one account, let's say our current account is negative 20 billion, our capital account has to be positive 20 billion. And here's how that process might work. Let's say that we buy a lot of things from Japan, okay, a lot of goods and services. Well, if we're buying goods and services from Japan, that means, number one, we're sending money to Japan, so that's going to go down as a negative, and it's going to go down as a negative in our current account, because it's goods and services, right? So our current account is in deficit. Japan now has all this American currency. What are they going to do with that currency? Well, they're either going to do one of two things. They're going to turn around and use it to buy our stuff. Now, if they do that, if we buy 20 billion worth of stuff from Japan, and then Japan turns around and buys 20 billion worth of our stuff, well, guess what? It balances out to zero. So that's nice and neat. What they're probably more likely to do, though, is use that money to invest in the United States. And that would go down as a positive in our capital account. Okay, so the current account was in deficit because we bought a lot of goods from Japan. Then Japan turns around and invests in us, and this is like when they build a car factory here in America, that goes down in the capital as a positive in our capital account, and it balances out the current account. Okay, so if one account is positive, the other account is negative in the same amount. The two accounts put them together, they always have to balance. That's pretty simple stuff. You could get that. Now, let's talk about currency exchange. So I've got a graph here that represents the market for dollars. Okay, long story short, now remember, whenever you're looking at these currency exchange graphs, we're always talking about what's happening in the world, not the supply of money here at home or the demand for money here at home, but the supply of money, our currency that's in the world. In this case, it's a dollar graph, the supply of our currency in the world and the demand for our currency by other countries. Okay, so the supply and demand for our dollars. So here, as you can see, this axis is important. It says euro price per dollar. In other words, how many euros does it take to get $1? Okay, if this was the euro, the market for the euro, it would be dollars per 1 euro. Okay, so remember, I always remember that as you're labeling this axis, and that is very important if you're taking this test and you have to draw this graph. If you're labeling this axis, whatever market it is what goes second. So in this case, it's the dollar market, so it's the euros per $1, euro price per dollar. Okay, so that's just a general looking at the graph and how that works. Now, let's talk about appreciation and depreciation, okay? And so we're primarily focused on this axis as supply and demand for dollars in the world changes. How does it affect the value of the dollar? So, in this case, as you can see on my graph, I have increased the demand for dollars, and that has increased the euro price of the dollar. In other words, it now takes more euros to get a dollar. Now, if you ever get confused with that, I always try to put it in terms, likening the value of one country's currency in terms of another country's currency can be a little bit tricky or confusing. So I like to think of it this way. What if you had a baseball card? Okay, and now it took more euros to get your baseball card. Your baseball card was worth 3 euros, now your baseball card is worth 5 euros. You would say, cool, my baseball card is worth more money. Same thing has happened with the dollar here. Okay, the dollar, it takes more euros to get a dollar, the dollar is more valuable. So this indicates that because it takes more euros to get the dollar has appreciated. The euro, of course, conversely has depreciated. Okay, they both can't appreciate or depreciate. That's like saying both teams won the game. If one team wins, guess what? The other team loses. All right. If there was a decrease in the supply of euros, it'd be the same. Supply of dollars, it'd be the same process. It would cause it to take more euros to get a dollar, and the dollar would appreciate. So if there's an increase in demand or decrease in the supply of a dollar, it's going to take more euros to get the dollar, and the dollar has appreciated. Okay, the reverse, just to show you on the graph, where the demand for the dollar decreases, now notice it takes fewer euros to get a dollar. Again, if you had a baseball card that was worth 3 euros, now your baseball card is worth 1 euro, you'd say, stink, my baseball card's not worth as much money. Same is true of the dollar, right? The dollar has depreciated because it takes fewer euros to get that dollar. The euro, on the other hand, has appreciated. The euro is more valuable because for fewer euros, they're getting the same thing, $1. Okay, so the euro is more valuable, and if there was an increase in the supply of dollars, you'd see the same process. You would see the euro price of a dollar going down, okay? So, that's kind of how you read the appreciation and depreciation. Now, if you get confused with the axis and that kind of thing, just think about it logically. Here, the demand for the dollar has decreased. If the demand for anything decreases, guess what? It's less valuable. If nobody wants something anymore, it's not as valuable. On the other hand, if the demand for the dollar, just like if the demand for anything increases, if more people want it, it's more valuable. Same is true of the dollar here, right? All right, so if you get confused by the numbers and the axis, you can always kind of think through it that way as well. That may help you. All right, why does currency change? Okay, why would there be a change in demand or supply of a currency? Well, there are generally 4 things that cause that to happen. So, in general, though, you can summarize the 4 things by saying it this way. Where do people want to buy or invest in? Okay, which country do people want to buy or invest in? Excuse me. Now, let's say, for example, that people in country A want to buy or invest in country B. Okay, so you can look at it this way. It depends on which market they're asking you to draw or consider. So with demand, this either decreases the demand for country A's currency because people in country A, people in country B comparatively do not want to buy or invest in country A. Or you could also say it increases the demand for country B's currency. In order to buy things from country B or invest in country B, guess what? You need their currency. So that increases the demand for country B's currency, decreases the demand for country A's currency. If you look at it from the supply perspective, and you can do both, okay, most questions will accept both rationales. You can either say, well, if country A is buying more things from the world, country B, they're going to send more of their money into the world. So you can either think of it as an increase in the supply of country A's currency, or comparatively, country B is not buying from country A, so they're not sending their money into the world, so there's going to be a decrease in the supply of country B's currency. Now, whichever one of those makes the most sense to you, as you think through a problem, again, unless they specify, occasionally they'll say, show me the change in the supply of currency for country A, whatever. Then you have to do supplier, show me the change in demand. But if they don't, you can do either one. Whichever one makes the most sense to you is all good. So what are the 4 things that would cause either supply or demand to shift? Pretty simple. Changes in tastes or preferences. Sometimes we want to buy more things from other countries. Sometimes we don't want to buy things from other countries, and that would change accordingly, like we said up there. Country A wants to buy things from country B, so that's their change in taste or preference. Country B does not want to buy from country A, so that's pretty simple if they give you one like that. If they give you a scenario with inflation, remember we always like to buy where things are the cheapest, right? So if a country is experiencing a high rate of inflation, we generally don't want to buy from them because their products are going to be more expensive. Conversely, to them, our stuff is cheaper, so they will want to buy from us. And again, remember, all these come back to what we said at the top, which is you're asking the question, where do people want to buy or invest in? Okay, in this case, you want to buy where inflation is lower because prices are going to be cheaper. All right, changes in real income. Okay, sometimes they'll give you a scenario that say country A has an increase in real income. Well, if you make more money, you tend to buy more things. Country A is no exception. And country A, like us, probably doesn't just buy domestic goods, they buy foreign goods as well. So guess what? If a country's income increases, they tend to buy more foreign goods. If a country's income decreases, they're going to buy fewer things. That includes from other countries. So demand for foreign products is going to decline as a result of that. And then lastly, changes in real interest rates. Okay, if you're an investor, you want to put your money where you get the greatest return. Okay, you put your money where you get the greatest return, and you do that where interest rates are the highest. So whatever country has the higher interest rates, that's where investors are going to go. Again, where do you want to buy or invest in? Okay, so whichever country has the higher interest rates, that's where you want to go to invest. So generally, those 4 things would change the supply and demand for currency. And then lastly, how does that impact trade? Right, because changing values of currency affects the price of things and whether or not we buy or whatnot. So when a country's currency appreciates, so let's look at it from country A's perspective, their currency appreciates. That means, if you look at a graph, it takes more of country B's currency to get that money from country A. That means country A's products just became more expensive to country B. Well, think about that. If country A's products become more expensive, are they going to buy more or fewer things from them? They're going to buy fewer things from them, okay? So another way of saying that, you can say country A's exports will decrease because country B's like, wow, country A's stuff just got expensive to us, we're not going to buy from there. Of course, conversely, country B's things just got cheaper to country A, and they're going to say, sweet, let's buy more things from country B. And that's because their currency has appreciated, country A's currency has appreciated, country B's has depreciated, and so their imports are going to increase. Okay, depreciation, of course, is going to be the exact opposite of what we just said. Country A's currency depreciates. It takes less of country B's currency to get money from country A. That makes country A's things cheaper. So country B is going to be like, sweet, let's buy from country A. Their stuff just got cheaper. It takes fewer of our dollars to get their dollar or whatever, so their stuff just became cheaper, and so country B is going to buy more of their goods. That means country A's exports are going to increase, because remember, country B is buying more, so they're sending more to country B. Conversely, from country A's perspective, they're like, wow, country B's stuff just got more expensive, we're not going to buy from country B, and so their imports are going to decrease. So the exact opposite of what happens when there is appreciation. So again, you just got to, I know it's tricky, you just got to kind of think through it a step at a time. Where do people want to buy? Why? How does that change value? And then how does that change things in the long run? This scenario here is pretty much all long run that we're talking about as these things matriculate and take time to take effect. So, all right, that's our last unit. Again, most of that currency exchange, I know it's kind of a booger, but do your best. Like I say, take it a step at a time. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know. And otherwise, until next time.